So we're going to give it just a couple of seconds because Restream's got us in all of the things to all of the places. And we are now live. Welcome everyone to episode 9 of season 5 of the Level Up Your Wealth podcast. We talk about the gaming industry from a business perspective. One of your hosts, Marcus Howard. We're on a special schedule today for special reason. So Mario couldn't join us today, but he will be back for next week's episode. Our guest for tonight is Zach, all the way from, can I say Wisconsin? People in Wisconsin, something like that?
You could try. Yes, all the way from Wisconsin. You got it.
Welcome to the show, Zach.
Thank you.
If you do a quick intro for everyone, then we'll jump right into rock, paper, scissors, and then talk about all the things.
Let's do it. Okay, well, thank you, first of all, for having me and for making the exception of moving your normally scheduled time. Appreciate it. My name is Zach Howe. I am the creator of a game called HAVOC, which is a card game that is, just to give you a short elevator pitch, kind of like the sci-fi love child of Magic and chess. So if that sounds terrible to you, then you might not want to play it. But if that sounds intriguing, you might like it. But that's what I do. I have an incredible team that I work with. Our company is called Mix Studios. We're a fledgling indie studio trying to build our first game and then some more beyond that. But yeah, that's where we are currently.
All right. Well, there's plenty of time to cover all of that. But before we do that, number one, shout out to Angelica. Thank you for hosting Zach as a guest on your podcast last week, which is how I became aware of him. So that's the power of LinkedIn, the power of the gaming community. Much success and well wishes to her as she continues her podcast. And next, we're going to play a quick game of rock, paper, scissors.
Yes.
If you're tuning in live, let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to give you a shout out, put you up on the screen. You put your bets in about who you think is going to win. So let me do my screen share here.
I'm going to rps.gg and it's giving me some trouble. It's telling me the site can't be reached.
Oh, is it doing that? Let me try this link.
My connection seems to be okay down here, so I'm not sure what the issue is, but
okay, try that link. I just sent you a new link. Oh, you're right.
Okay. Does this mean we're gonna have to play HAVOC?
We might. We get to play HAVOC. We don't have to play HAVOC.
Right. You have the privilege of suffering through a game of HAVOC with me.
Let's try one more time here. It might not be working. It looks like it's hanging here. The game
is that happening for you too, or is that just an issue on my end?
It's from an indie team, and the team is regularly making updates, and so occasionally it knocks the system out. So that's okay. That's okay. If you think we can play HAVOC in 10 minutes, I'm happy to try. If you think that that's not going to happen, we can try to anyway.
we definitely can't in 10 minutes, but I am more than happy to do an old school. I mean, but that's not a video game, right?
That's not a video game. That's not.
We're on video when playing a game. Isn't that the definition? What are these things, anyways?
What are games? What are videos? So let's do you want me to bring up the background, and then we will introduce HAVOC so people can see it live. Let's do that. Can we do that?
Okay, that sounds good. Okay. We'll do it.
All right. So you're from Wisconsin. You've grown up in Wisconsin. I was just talking to my wife earlier, and she's probably embarrassed that I'm saying this, but she's like, I thought Wisconsin was next to Vermont. And she said, don't hold it against me. I said, well, you don't hold it against me because I thought Wisconsin was on the West Coast. I'm terrible with geography. Actually, I know that
where the West comes from, right? It's close.
Yeah, there is some West in there. The middle part of the West,
right?
The Western middle. But you've been there your whole life, right?
Well, yeah, for most of my life. So I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I was born just outside of Madison, Wisconsin. Spent most of my life here. Made a couple of different pit stops in a few places. Back in 2011, I dragged my now wife, then already longtime girlfriend, to Minneapolis on part of my odyssey of getting my 6 years bachelor's degree across 3 different universities with 2 stints at one particular university. So Minneapolis back in 2011. I love Minneapolis. It's a great town. It's actually a lot like a big Madison. I tend to view things through the prism of Madison because I do love me in Madison, Wisconsin.
I think I hear that.
Right. I mean, hey, go Bucky right there. There's the Wisconsin blanket. Then I came back, transferred from University of Wisconsin to University of Minnesota, back to University of Wisconsin, where I got my degree in Madison, Wisconsin. English literature. Go do it, kids. You can do a lot with that English lit degree. And then I guess it kind of worked out because I became a writer. So in 2017, my wife and I moved out to LA because I got a gig writing for a website called Ranker. It probably didn't require a move to LA, but it was a good excuse to move there. I'd always wanted to move there. I had a friend who thought he could get me into the TV writing business, or he implied he could. Once I got out there, he was like, "Yeah, so I'm in reality TV. Did you say you wanted to be in the other stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, I don't really know anyone then." And I was like, "Okay, cool, good. I just moved across the country. This is gonna work out fine." So we spent a year there. In that time, we had gone from we were close to 30 at this point. Trying to remember how old I am. We were nearing the age of 30, and we had gone from not wanting kids to eventually wanting kids. And so in that year, it was a good experience. Kind of got the whole Southern California thing out of our system, though. We did it. We liked it. It was nice. But Madison, Wisconsin was home. We have family here. And we're like, well, if we're going to raise a family, instead of paying $2,000 a month for this, studio apartment in LA, maybe we should go back home. So we happily made the move back to Madison. And I mean, I certainly don't regret it. I've loved Madison, Wisconsin my whole life. I keep coming back. It's a great town. If you've never been here, please come up and visit sometime. We'd love to have you. Badger football Saturdays, there's nothing like it. It's incredible. Yeah. You would love it.
All right.
So yeah, that's where I am now. I mean, I've been here since 2017 and started working for this company in 2021, and here we are.
So when you have the HAVOC launch party in Madison, Wisconsin, let me know well enough in advance, and I'll see if I can be there on site.
Yes, 100%.
What's your favorite cheese? Cheese is big in Wisconsin, I hear.
So my favorite cheese, funny enough, my 3-year-old thinks it's Monster cheese. She's close. It's Munster. Munster is my favorite cheese. It is. Do you know Munster cheese? No, you don't.
I know Munster cheese, but I thought you said Munster cheese twice.
Monster. My daughter thinks it's called Monster cheese, as in rawr monster.
Okay.
She's close. It's Munster. I think it's German. I don't know.
I was having a delusion moment there.
But yes,
I don't know that much about cheese, but I swear he said the same cheese twice.
What about? Do you have a favorite cheese?
Sharp cheddar. I didn't used to be a major cheese fan. In the South, it's not part of the culture, at least not in the urban community. It's not part of the culture.
Okay.
But as I've gotten older and worked in different communities, and now here in Florida, it's like major here, at least in Tampa. And my wife's family is up from the Northeast, and so cheese, like what is it, charcuterie boards. Like I learned a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't know existed about cheese. I remember one time I went to a Super Bowl party. This was like 7-8 years ago. And I brought some cheese there because my roommate, his family loved cheese. And so he's like, yeah, man, he would always get like I don't know, was it mozzarella cheese comes in the little red packs?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I brought one of those to the party and everybody was like, oh, you brought cheese. So now I understand it's important.
Yes, there's nothing more important. In fact, I'm probably a little embarrassed to admit this, but this past weekend, I was at Cheese Days, which is a biennial cheese festival in my wife's hometown of Monroe, Wisconsin. The home of Limburger cheese, which is the most disgusting thing you could ever put in your mouth. I don't recommend it, but it's worth a try just to say you did it.
Right. Okay. So make sure Limburger. I'm going to cross that off the list because I don't have a developed cheese.
That's fine. Just take my word for it. It's not worth it.
Okay. So enough about the cheese. We've cut enough cheese here. Talk a little bit about your book, because I've published a book myself. I forgot to send you a digital copy of it.
Yeah.
Talk about your book.
Okay. Well, I would like to hear more about your book at some point here, if you want to talk about it now. But I'll tell you.
Here's a 30 second real quick. It's
yes,
basically
please.
an almanac of innovation celebrating gaming and esports.
Nice.
300 pages. It's a coffee table book.
Oh, that's awesome. That's beautiful.
I didn't write the entire thing. I only wrote 2 pages, but I spent 2 years curating my network of gaming and esports thought leaders and businesses and game studios, and they're featured in the book. It's a celebration of their work.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I would love to check that thing out. It sounds like a great book. You don't want to read my book. So, I mean, I don't really push my book these days, to be honest. I wrote my book in my early 20s. I was working for UW Health, University of Wisconsin Hospital here in Madison. And I had this gig in the call center where if I was not taking incoming calls from patients, I was just sitting around and waiting for those calls. So Some of my colleagues would watch shows and movies. I certainly was guilty of that from time to time, but I also took some of that time to read and write some books. So when I wrote that first book, I was in, like I said, I was in my early 20s. I was still in school. Probably should have just been doing homework at the time, but you know me. So it was a modern adaptation of the 12 Labors of Hercules. I had this story arc for 5 books. I would have written it, but after book 1 and as I started to write book 2, my taste started to change, and so I went from reading young adult fiction to just normal good fiction, and so like what I was writing anymore, just it didn't really jive with my who I was anymore, and so there's a special place in my heart for Gordy Leonard, the main character of the series, who is a descendant of Hercules, but I'd be very surprised if I ever finished that series someday. Maybe. I wrote a couple books after that I didn't publish. They were what has become my actual genre of writing is absurdist fantasy comedies. So
Very
one,
specific.
yeah, one manuscript, for example, is called The Jolly Old Prince of Darkness, which is about Satan, who's also Santa Claus, because it's an anagram, and he's just a nice guy who's misunderstood and looking for love and trying to help the kids of the world. That's the type of stuff I write these days. Now, I haven't written since I got the gig, well, ironically enough, as a writer for this game, which I then
Yeah.
moved into game design. But yeah, with the actual book that I self-published years ago, like I said, self-published, and I was in over my head. I was young, and I thought, I sent it to a few different agents to try to follow the, traditional method of getting a literary agent and then getting published. And I had some sort of early success in terms of interest from agents, but then ultimately got no's. And then I had a subsequent, slew of no's after that. And I was like, well, screw this. I can do this on my own. People self-publish. So I tried, and I ended up, speaking at a couple conferences and things like that. And I was, again, very young, and I was like, this is too much. Like, I'm not even writing anymore. I'm still in school. I'm trying to talk to these conferences. Like, this doesn't work for me. So I tabled it and never really returned to that series, sadly, even though I have some friends who are mad at me for it. But the world will be okay.
Yeah. So you published 1 of 5. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's right. I published the first one. Never published those other books I talked about, the Jolly Old Prince of Darkness, or the other one, Berlith and Berlith versus the Dragons, which is I won't even get into it. It's not worth it. But yeah, if I had not gotten this gig writing for this company and then becoming game designer, I probably would still be pursuing that, because I do need to create as part of my job, or I'll go crazy. I need that outlet. And I'm fortunate enough that I've been able to do it as a career in different capacities. So, now that I've got one that is paying, it's still creative, I'll take it.
Awesome. Rick Bauer, who may or may not be related to Jack Bauer, says Zach is everywhere. Let's go HAVOC Gen Zero.
Hey, Rick. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I don't even know if I can talk in this chat. Can I?
So, I meant to do that as part of the pre-launch of the show. Is Restream has this very particular glitch, if you will, where we can't respond to LinkedIn messages from here, even though it's showing them to us. So
I can say hi to Rick, and Rick,
he can hear you. I think he can hear you.
Yes, he can hear me. Rick's a great guy. He reached out to me on LinkedIn, or vice versa. I don't remember, within the last week or so. And it turns out he lives really close to me, and we got together and played a game of HAVOC. He's a YouTuber, and he kind of liked the game. So he's been, singing our praises and made a video about us. And he's a wonderful guy. Thank you for coming, Rick. Good to see you, bud.
Awesome. So you were writing, and you've made a shift from full-time writer to part-time writer, part-time game designer. Can you talk a little about the similarities of those two roles and how they're different?
Yeah. So, to some extent, I lucked into the current gig. So when I was hired in 2021 to create the universe for this game, it was actually by my former college roommate. So when I was getting that, Odyssey bachelor's degree I referred to earlier, my college roommate at the time was spending the same amount of time on his 3 masters and 1 PhD in magnetohydrodynamics, otherwise known as plasma physics. So the point is, he's not the dumbest guy in the world. So he decided post-college that he was going to immediately leave science and just turn all of his genius into money, which he did pretty much instantaneously because, again, he's brilliant. But, back in college, we were just gamer buddies together. And so I was texting him back in 2021 about a show called Mythic Quest, which is on Apple TV. It's a comedy about a game development studio. It's very funny. Highly recommend it. We're just joking about that show. And I say to him, in the text, hey, when you inevitably start your video game company someday, can I have a job as a writer? And he says, yes. And I go, what? And he goes, you're hired. And I go, what? And so it had just so happened that within the last few weeks, I think at that point, he had just hired a concept artist to just start creating some concepts, some very early stage concepts about a universe in which a game could inhabit. And it just so happened that I came in and said, hey, can I have a gig as a writer before he had a writer? So he hired me knowing that I had a background as a writer. I can't say I was deserving at the time, but, he took a chance on me and I appreciate it. That's why you should always shoot your shot, ladies and gentlemen. So, he gave me the job. I came in, I wrote for about a month, fleshing out this universe initially. Now, let's remind everyone that I am an absurdist fantasy comedy writer writing in this hard, dark sci-fi universe, right? So, what happens next? So then we bring in another writer named Antek. And Antek is my dear friend and colleague now who lives in Warsaw. He's an Oxford graduate. He's a sci-fi writer by trade, and he is infinitely more brilliant than I am. So Antek, what he wrote, pretty much immediately replaced everything I wrote, right? So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, here I am. I've been made obsolete pretty much instantaneously. I better find some way to add value to this company. So when we started initially, he came in, I was introduced to him as head writer. Shortly thereafter, I was like, okay, Antek's now the head writer. That's fine. Deservedly so. He allowed me to write under him for a little while and gave me some guidance on that front and how to write sci-fi. I never improved. But so we were creating an RPG at the time. And we started to actually do some development on the digital RPG, in fact. But after he continued to flesh out this world that he created, this universe that he created, because I had a background as a card gamer, it just kind of clicked that we could distill it down into a card game, which is, as I'm sure you know, a lot more achievable in the near term to develop a card game than it is to do an RPG, right? RPGs take years. Someday we'll still do it. We backburnered it, and I think we're going to tie it right into the card game, and it's going to be amazing. But I was like, hey, I've got this idea for a card game. Can I go tinker? So I went away, and my boss / friend gave me the opportunity to go away and create this game. So I come back. I went away with a buddy of mine who worked with me for a few hours a week to help me kind of flesh out the ideas. And after about 3 or 4 months, we came back and said, okay, here's what we have, the beginnings of a playable card game. And he's like, wow, this is a real game. And I was like, well, yeah, that's what I told you we were going to do. It turned out everyone loved it when we got back with it. And so we kind of immediately pivoted. The creative director at the time, who was kind of overseeing the RPG, frankly, was a little bit of a roadblock. So when I came back after those 4 months, Antek said to me, we've literally accomplished nothing since you've left. So I'm so glad you showed up with a game because I didn't know what we were going to do. So I was like, well, hey, that's good. That's good to hear. I'm happy. Okay. So we come in, we've got a game now. We start focusing on it. We continue to flesh out the universe. I continue to develop the game. I was studying card game design just via podcast. I was listening to Mark Rosewater, who is the head writer or designer of Magic: The Gathering. I was listening to a few other game designers and just trying to absorb as much as I could and give myself a crash course as I was developing the game. And everyone says, making a card game is an iterative process, which I was like, yeah, okay. And now I understand, 2 years later, after tweaking each individual card, God knows how many dozens times, it is an iterative process, very much so. So it took us a couple of years to develop the game and get us to the point where we are ready to share the game with the world. And here we are at that point. So our Kickstarter is currently live. You're seeing our website, enterhavoc.com, where it's a beautiful website. Half of our team now is, more than half our team actually, are artists. One of them, a designer named Tommy, developed or designed this website. That trailer there is largely our 3D modeler, whose name is actually Thanos. Incredibly talented
I
young.
saw that on the website. I was like, wait a minute.
Yes.
I don't know.
No,
I think
really, his
everybody's being
actual-
trolled.
I know, right? Well, he's inevitable. But yeah, I mean, like
yeah.
the talent on our team, our tiny little team of 5. I mean, this trailer was made by 3 young artists under the creative direction of Antec, who kind of grew from head writer to just creative director at large, and they made this incredible trailer that people have come to us and said, "Wow, what studio made this for you? This is amazing!" And like, well, this is the first trailer our guys have ever made, and yeah, it looks like a AAA trailer, but you know what? We had 3 25-year-olds who did it, so their talent is unbelievable. I can't take any credit for the trailer. I was not involved in the production of that.
Not at all.
Right, not even a little bit. I don't even know where to begin with it, but I'm so proud of them for what they did. And then,
is it okay if we watch the trailer? Can we?
Hey, by all means, I love it. Every time I watch it, I get a little bit teary-eyed, so I'll try not to cry on stream. But...
Okay, here we go. Here we go.
Oh, what happened? Oh, there we go.
The Terminus, a world adrift in the galaxy's heart. A riddle, teetering at the edge of the black hole, steered and ruled by a strange synthetic intelligence. The Void Mind. It languished in solitude for eons, devoid of its architects, devoid of purpose. It began searching for new tokens to play with. It found you. And you came to find the Terminus in ruins, radiating a foreboding essence. Parts of the Void Mind's fragmented psyche welcomed you in this world. They have empowered you with powerful biomechanical constructs, exposing realities that defy belief. You will deploy armies, launch expeditions into the Nyx, find the levers that move this station, and seize its power. Can you learn how to conquer this world? Or fall to pieces trying? HAVOC Gen Zero, the ultimate tactical card game. Only on Kickstarter.
You don't have to keep watching. The next part is just me talking, and I've already done enough of
that. All right. Well.
Oh, perfect freeze frame there, though. I look like I'm gonna sneeze.
So we'll shut the screen sharing down then for now. That's awesome.
Isn't it incredible? I mean, I can't when they I didn't really see much of the progress as they were going, and when he brought me the first cut, I was like, this is what you've been doing? This is unbelievable. This is not anywhere near what I was anticipating. And it was, I mean, you see, it's remarkable. I mean, that looks like it came out of AAA studio.
It does. It does. It looks like it might be even from like part of a movie, some pieces of it.
Right.
Has your team had any conversations? When I saw the dice, I was like, man, this really should be like a physical board game. Or
it is a physical board game.
Okay.
Yes, so that's actually that's the funny part. That's the only problem with the trailer is that digital representation of the game looks so incredible and it looks like a video game that it doesn't actually really convey that this is a physical game. So that is, a representation, a rendering of the physical game.
Hmm.
It is primarily a physical game. So the Kickstarter right now, we are selling the physical game. After the Kickstarter, that's when we're going to start developing the digital as soon as we find a home for it.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I want to connect you after the show to Ace. Ace lives in LA. He also is making a digital trading card game. And I think his focus is on the digital piece. He happens to be like kind of bootstrapping the physical piece. So
Nice.
you are all taking kind of opposite approaches, but in a similar genre.
Yeah.
So as we talked about before, I think it's helpful to have cohorts of people in the same stage of your journey.
Yes, 100%. That's what's been so amazing about the gaming community is just like how supportive everyone is, regardless of where they are in their place. I mean, I'm. Oh, there's Ace.
Speaking of Ace,
hey Ace, nice to meet you, man. It sounds
all right,
like we'll be
Ace.
chatting. I'm looking forward to it.
I'll introduce you after the show.
Yes, can't wait. I mean, yeah, it's been so cool to experience that. I mean, I've been like, Peter Atkinson, one of the original founders of Magic, and Wizards of the Coast, and founder and owner and operator of Gen Con. I was just connected with him like a week or two ago, and he's coming to Madison for a conference here in a couple of weeks called Gamehole Con. And he was like, "Yeah, I'd love to play your game." So I mean, like, people just of that like caliber who are like infinitely above me in this world are open to helping out everyone else in the. It's just a really cool community. I've been blown away and really humbled by it. The experience. Zach, what you and your team are doing are dope. Happy to connect. Thanks, buddy.
Real quick, and not to detract away from the amazing project you all are doing, but Ace also, I mentioned his physical cards. I think they're on pre-sale now. I don't have the link, but if you look up Ace Patterson on LinkedIn, you're probably watching this on LinkedIn anyway. The game is 5 mics. It's a physical version, so just search Google or Chat GPT to find the link. Actually, if you have the link, Ace, I'll boost that up on the screen real quick. But yeah, I'm excited for the two of you to connect, and I'll be sure.
Just sent Ace a connection. There we go. I'm excited to chat, bud.
You saved me a step.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Very cool, Ace. I can't wait to hear more about your game and check it out. Yeah, we'll chat soon.
Is it possible for us to play an online match of this?
Yeah, we can. I mean, we'll start one. There's no
start.
way
Let's go for 5 minutes. Can we do 5 minutes?
All right, let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, I'm gonna send you
as you're sending me that here. If you're watching live, shop.5mics.io. You might also want to get that link as well, Zach, for the physical copies for pre-orders. I think it's open for 30 days.
Sounds great. Yes,
I used to play trading card games when I was in middle school and high school. And actually, I have an identical twin brother. He and I had this like brilliantly stupid idea to like spend a bunch of money on. I want to say it was either Pokemon cards. It wasn't Magic the Gathering. It was Pokemon cards. What was it? Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay.
Here's what we're gonna do. All right, we're gonna spend this money on these cards, and then it has to be only like 9-year-olds playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because we were like 17 or 18. We're gonna go to the tournaments and we're gonna win all the money. And we never got around to doing any of the tournaments. We just wasted a bunch of money, invested a bunch of money on Yu-Gi-Oh! cards.
Nice, I love it. Hey, they're probably worth something if you still got them around. I only ever played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! And that was only when I was in my research phase developing this game and playing every card game I could to try to get some ideas. Some people say they see a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! Inspiration in this. I think it's really just because there's a grid, and there was, at least on the digital version of Yu-Gi-Oh!, a grid sort of.
People who lose the game don't have their souls banished to the Shadow Realm?
Not yet. We're still working on that tech. It's going to take a little while for us to figure that out. But, so I sent you the link there. So what you'll see this is Tabletopia, which is an online in-browser tabletop simulator. So you'll go there. You'll see me as the host. Next to that, you see Vacant Seat. So just click on Take Seat, or click on Vacant Seat, Take Seat, and then just input your name to join as a guest. You don't have to create an account or anything like that. And then, so on the left-hand side, input your name, play as guest, and then just click on that green button afterwards, which should say like continue, I think.
Yep. So that's cool. People can play it.
It's as of like this past week. In fact, if you just go to tabletopia.com, the homepage, you'll find it plastered all over, which was really cool of the people at Tabletopia to do for us. They knew that our Kickstarter was live, and so they reached out to me and offered to like help us publish it. I had been using this for many months, not just to play with our community members in Discord, but also for play testing. I still use it for that purpose because my co-designer, who I mentioned earlier, he works with me a few hours a week. He has a full-time job and he lives in Michigan. So twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week at 6:30 a.m., we get on a call and we're playing, in here and play testing the game. So it's multi-purpose, multifunctional, but it's really easy to set up a game in here. And so, they help us publish it, and people have been actually playing it, which is pretty cool. I was nervous about publishing it, like just to the broader world, because I'd never allowed people to play the game without me present in some capacity. So now it just, it requires people to read the rule book and go in and play, but people have been doing it, so it's good.
Okay.
Now,
I did not read the rule book, so when I lose everyone, it's
yes.
I didn't even know there was a rule book. So
right.
I'm gonna let you know in advance I'm gonna lose.
There is a beefy rule book. Now, normally at this point, I would sort of dive into my like 20-minute spiel about how to play the game. We're just gonna skip all that. And we're just going to start playing because you don't have time for all that business. Now, you are stealing cards from my deck, my good sir. So I'm going to need one of those back.
All right, you keep
here, okay, so you're off to a good start. So here, let's do this. I'll give you your deck and your cards.
All right.
So your deck's going to be right here. Boom. I'm going to give that bad boy a shuffle. To move an entire deck, you have to click once and then click a second time and drag. Otherwise, if you just click and drag off the top, then you'll just pull a card off the top. So I'm going to give you your deck. You've got a pilot over there. You've got Fafir. Sure, why not? What the hell? Let's dive in. We'll give you Fafir. She's a little complicated, but that's okay.
Okay.
I'm a little complicated too. I'm going to take a pilot over here. Now, like I said, normally at this point, I would give a pretty fulsome orientation. But since we're just kind of doing the thing, let's just do the thing and see what happens. So all I'm going to tell you for purposes of orientation is this is your pilot here in the pilot zone. The object of the game is to defeat your opponent's pilot.
Okay.
You don't have to necessarily destroy their mech first, but in most cases you will, because generally it's wise to keep your pilot inside your mech because A, your mech is a very powerful combatant and it requires the pilot inside to control it. And B, the second you eject your pilot out of your mech and use them out there as a combatant on their own, you've put them very much in harm's way, and the risks outweigh the reward in most cases. So our mechs and pilots are going to start back here in our pilot zones.
Okay.
Combatants in the field of play can attack the pilot zone, but it requires that they have sufficient range to reach it from wherever they're located in the field of play. So I know like none of this really makes sense to you because you haven't seen combatants, but like I said, we're just going to try it and see what happens. So if you want to right click on your deck over here, and then at the bottom, you see a little draw icon. So go straight down and then draw 5 cards. So what we have before the game starts is a pre-game mulligan phase. So the way the mulligan phase works is that you can discard anywhere between 0 and 5 of these cards and then draw that many to replace them. So what you're hoping for in your starting hands is either low-cost combatants, especially combatants like this, who have the expedition ability. If you double-click on this guy that I put in the middle of the board here, you can see him up close. Low-cost combatants, especially ones that have an ability specifically called expedition. It is one of the most important abilities in the game. It's one of the most common abilities in the game. It helps you get these reactors, which also mean nothing to you, but just know that you need them. So I'm going to hang on to this guy. I'm going to get rid of a high-cost combatant that I won't be able to use for a while because you can see in the upper right-hand corner of any given card the cost to play the card.
Okay.
That is the Exa cost. Exa is our energy or mana. It matches the turn number, your total Exa any given turn. It's the same mana system that Hearthstone uses. So on any given turn, your turn number will match this amount of X that you have to spend. So this big guy here costs 10. I wouldn't be able to play him until turn 10. I don't need him in my starting hand. So I'm going to set those two aside. I'm going to draw 2 cards to replace those, and then I'm going to return these to my deck. So what you're hoping for is either those low-cost combatants or reactor cards, and these are the reactor cards over here.
Okay.
We each have these 6 reactor cards in our deck, and they are important. So hopefully you've got some in your starting hand. If you don't have any,
how do I forget? How do I send back things that I don't want to go get?
So just click and drag it out of your hand, and then drop it on the board somewhere.
Okay.
And then, yep, perfect. And then draw that many cards to replace it. So 2.
Yep.
Oh. And then I will return these to your deck for you after you draw. There you go. Right. Boom, boom, boom. Okay.
Aha! I did not get a reactor card.
Now you've got your starting hand. I've got my starting hand. I'm going to let you go first. So I took 1 additional card. Player 2 gets this card called the Core. For those who have played Hearthstone, that might sound somewhat familiar. Player 2 in that game gets the Coin, which is a free unit of mana that is overpowered. So we created a card called the Core that is not free. It costs 1, but allows you to carry that over to the next turn. So I'm going to take that as player 2. So we're going to start, my friend. It is turn 1 for you. So you start by drawing 1 card.
1 card. I know how to do this. I can do this.
So right click and then straight down, draw 1.
1. All right.
All right. So it's turn 1. You have 1 total X to spend, meaning that you can play any card with a 1 on it. You can also play at least, or not at least, you can play up to 1 reactor per turn. So if you have a reactor and you don't have an associated biome card with it, which is to say a card that matches it in color and matches the icon, then I would recommend playing that reactor over here. If you have perfect 1 cost combatant with Expedition, that's great. Now, you did exactly what you should do. You deployed him in the 2nd row of your base. The reason why you should do that is because this guy has movement 1, meaning he can move 1 row, and he has Expedition. So on your next turn, when you use him, you'll be able to move right into the Nyx, and you can go get a reactor card.
Okay.
So the only other thing you could do at this point, if you had 1, you could play a reactor.
I don't have one. Nope.
Have to. Okay.
Oh, wait. I had one the entire time. Cool, you activated my trap card. Right. So that goes over here.
There you go. Yep. E as in Edward is how you rotate it.
Yep. All right.
Okay. So that's great. Now I'll just tell you, I know you don't know why you're doing these things. One of the reasons you play reactors is because it is one of the things that allow you to deploy your mech. So there are 2 conditions under which the mech can come into play. The first condition is turn 8. So on turn tracker here, you can see a little mech icon. If the mechs have not been deployed by turn 8, you can then deploy them. The other condition that allows the mechs to come into play is if all 6 reactors are activated. Now, we each have these 6 reactors in our deck. And when either player plays that reactor, it is a global effect that allows both players to then use cards associated with that reactor called biome cards. So this is actually a shared resource. Okay. So you might be wondering, why would I want to play this if it might help my opponent? Well, the other condition that allows the mechs to come in is if all 6 reactors are activated. However, the caveat to that rule is that if one player has played 6 reactors, or excuse me, if one player has played 4 or more reactors and the other player then has only played 2 or less reactors, once all 6 are activated, then only the player with the majority of the reactors is allowed to deploy their mech before turn 8. So we call this the reactor race. It is why the expedition combatants are so important, because they allow you to find these reactors and play them. So right now you're up in the reactor race. I need to try to catch up. So turn 1 over here, you've spent your 1 Exa to play your bot. You've played your 1 allotted reactor. Your turn is done. So I will draw a card over here. Turn 1, I'm going to play a tiny little 1 cost combatant here. This guy has 0 movement. He only has a range of 1. Now, combatants with 0 movement, that doesn't mean they're literally stuck in the space you deploy them in. They can still shift laterally 1 space. They just can't move between rows. So this guy, he's just a sitting duck waiting for this guy to come get him. Now, the reason I put him in the same column is because once this guy gets down here in range of attack, if you ever attack a combatant from an adjacent space, which means any touching space, In that case, that triggers melee combat, and the original attacker, the instigator, also receives damage back. Whereas in this scenario, where he's not in an adjacent space, this guy would damage this card, but it would take no damage in return. So if you're ever player 2 and you're trying to figure out where to position something, put it in the way of another card. Now, you can move diagonally, but I can also shift. So I'm going to stay in front of you and force you to, if you attack this guy, to do it from melee range, which will take out your Explorer bot. Okay, I'm done talking. I've spent my 1 Exa. I don't have a reactor. Turn 2 for you, good sir. Draw a card, and you can go.
Am I supposed to have 5 cards? Only 5, right?
Yeah, so you draw 1 each turn. You don't have a hand limit of 5. Hand limit is actually 9, so you're not going to hit it anytime soon, but draw 1 per turn. You can play as many cards as you have Exa to spend. There you go. So 2, you've got 2 to spend. That guy costs 2.
Yep. Okay.
Perfect.
I got the basics down. I can
You
count
got the
2.
basics down. Now this guy, movement 1, he can move into the Nyx, and as you can see on his expedition ability on his card, when he enters the Nyx for the first time, you get to search for a reactor card. So that is something you might want to do at this point. Boom, there you go. Okay, so you can grab any one of these reactors over here. You've already played the crystal reactor. There you go, geothermal, great. All right, so now you're up 2-1 in the reactor race. That is a disadvantage for me. And
beginner's luck.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know what you're doing. You already got it down. All right, so you've played your 2 cost combatant here. You've played your 1 allotted reactor. Now, technically, there is one more thing you could do on this turn related to the guy you just played. So this guy has a secondary reactor searching ability called Transference. What Transference is, you can sacrifice this card to search for a reactor, and using this ability actually allows you to play a second reactor card on that turn. I'm not necessarily suggesting you do that. There's no rush for you. You're already in a good state, but that is something that you technically could do if you were inclined.
Okay.
All right, so turn 2 over here. Draw a card. Boom, boom, boom. I've got 2 to spend. I am going to spend it. So I am going to play a 2 cost combatant right there. This guy is going to shift over to stay in for. Oh wait, no, this is dumb. Forgive me. I'm going to play this guy right here. This guy is going to shift over this way. All right, great. Now I've spent my 2. I once again don't have a reactor to play, so I'm going to pass. It is turn 3 for you.
All right. Heart of the cards.
Heart of the cards. And we can stop anytime you want.
Oh, I accidentally drew 3 cards. How do I put them back?
So just click and drag out of your hand and then hover over your deck with that card until it turns orange. There you go. And then you just release it. Perfect.
All right. Sorry about that.
I will let it slide this time, but if it ever happens again, so help me God.
All right, let's see. Expedition.
So you've got some interesting options on this turn with that guy who has Expedition and Transference. You could technically go ahead and win the reactor race already. So with your Thus Expedition up there, if you were so inclined, you could move into the Nyx and do Expedition. You could then sacrifice him using Transference to get another reactor, and you would get 4 reactors down. So at that point, you've won the reactor race. Now, you still wouldn't be allowed to deploy your mech until the other 2 reactors are out. So my strategy would change at this point, and it would be to stop you from getting more reactors and not playing reactors myself, because I certainly don't want to help you get your mech out early.
Right. Okay. I'm going to move 1. I'm going to do that.
Boom. There you go.
And that's it. We had 3, so I can do something with 1, right?
That's right. Yeah, and one thing I should note, on the turn that you play a reactor, you actually get a discount on those associated biome cards. So technically speaking, you played a stellar reactor this turn. You could still play a 2-cost stellar card if you had one, because those cards cost 1 less until the end of your turn since you played that reactor. I'm guessing in your deck you don't actually have a 2-cost stellar card, so I think it's moot, but that would be an option if you had one.
I don't think I do. I have something that has 2 points on it, but it's called Blitzsting.
Okay. then it is not that. So you've spent your 2, you've got 1 left. I don't think you have anything to spend it on. Now,
Yeah.
the last thing you could do, this guy can move up and attack if you want.
No, I'm just gonna hang out here. Can I put one more player on the field? Or
Yeah,
card?
if you've got one cost guy, you certainly can.
There we go.
There you go. Yep. Yeah, you're gonna win this reactor race. All right. Is that it for you?
That's it. That's it for me. Go ahead. Your
Okay.
turn. Sorry.
Turn 3. No, that's okay. Turn 3. Here we go. All right. Let's see. How are we gonna do this? We are going to. All right. We're gonna move up. This guy is going to move here and pew pew kill your Thus Expeditionist because he has movement 1, range of 1. That guy was within 1 row, meaning he was within range, so I killed him. Take him out. I am going to grab the fossil reactor. I am not going to play it yet because it is clear that you're going to win the reactor race, and I don't need to help you right now. Now, I have moved and attacked with this guy. I still have 3 to spend. I am going to spend it to... Who am I going to send back? I'm going to play Expulsion on your Ecologist here. So I'm going to return this guy to your hand. There's a 3-cost tech card. A tech card is like a spell card in like Magic or whatever. It just has an effect and it goes away. So I've done that. And then, oh my God, I just realized what I did wrong. I'm so stupid. Oh, well, I'm dumb. It's my fault. All right. I am then going to go ahead and pass my turn. Turn 4 for you.
All right. I'm going to draw a card. How are the cards? I'm going to play Expedition card. Person, 2 points. I want to attack this card.
All right, so now since you're in melee range, both cards will take 100 damage because they each do 100 damage for their attack, and they will both die because they both have 100 life. And you still have 2 left to spend.
2 left to spend. 2 left to spend. So just put this one here, and I will use up my turn.
This guy can move too.
Oh,
because you played him on the last turn.
Okay.
He's got Expedition, so you can grab a reactor.
All right.
And then, yeah, if you do pop it in play, then from now on, I'm definitely not putting any reactors down because it'll only help you. And that'll be it then. So it is turn 4 over here. Draw a card. Okay. Well, that was a decent pull, I guess. I'll use it. I got a 4-cost combatant. I'm going to drop him in. Little guy here still can't do anything. I can't hit you. I am going to pass. Turn 5 for you.
I have a question. If I have a reactor card that is similar to one I've already played, what do I do with it?
Yeah, so the reason that happened is because these cards that I have set aside over here, they're really just there for convenience. They just represent the cards that are in your deck.
Okay.
So basically that card is effectively not in your deck anymore. So just immediately discard it and draw a new card.
Okay. Darn.
There you go.
All right. So that means that I get 2 cards on this draw?
Yes, that's right.
Neither one of them are reactors. Wonderful.
Well, you do have an Expeditionist out there who can move and get a reactor at least.
All right. So we'll do that.
In fact, if you'd like some help, I can help you win the reactor race on this turn.
Sure.
All right. Well, you moved him into the next needed expedition. That's great. So grab your first reactor. Boom. You also have a Thus Expeditionist in hand, which I know because I sent him back to your hand. So if you play him right now for 2, your Thus Expeditionist has the transference ability. So you could play him and then immediately sacrifice him. And
you sent him back to my hand. I accidentally put him in the discard pile.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes. So when I played Expulsion on him, that didn't destroy him. It just returned him to your hand.
Oh.
All right. I didn't realize that you would put him in the discard. So if you drag that to the bottom of your screen, it'll pull right into your hand. There you go.
Okay.
Now you can play him, and then you can immediately sacrifice him. So he's going to end up back in your discard pile.
Yep, I'll sacrifice
By
him.
doing transference,
you can
Using
get
transference,
another reactor, and it allows you to play a second reactor this turn. So by turn 5, you have played all 6 reactors, which is impressive. That does not usually happen. So
I meant to do that from the beginning. It
of
was the
course
heart
you
of the
did.
cards.
So from this point on, you are allowed to deploy your mech and pilot, and I am not until turn 8. Now, the thing about deployment, your pilot costs 4. When you deploy your mech with your pilot, it still costs 4 because you're paying that pilot's cost. So realistically speaking, you won't be able to deploy your mech on this turn because you already spent 2 of your 5. You only have 3 remaining. But on your next turn, you'll be able to, and you'll still have an advantage.
Okay.
Do you want to keep playing, or do you want to say, I get it, we've seen enough?
Yeah, well, you know what? You won. I took a good fight.
Dude, I didn't win, man. You're about to get your mech out and ruin my day.
Reactors exploded, and so you won. But thank you for teaching me about the reactors. This was awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you. Yes, I mean,
that was.
I've never done that with anyone where I just threw them in the deep end, and and you comported yourself well. You did very well. You seemed to figure it out quickly.
I played a few video games in my day and a few card games.
There you go.
So
that always helps.
Over to the Kickstarter.
Yes.
That's Tabletopia, which is the same link that I just pasted. So let's try it. The actual Kickstarter link.
Do you want me to send you that link again?
I have it. I have it.
You got it. Okay.
So you've built this amazing IP. You have built this physical card game, and that's what this Kickstarter is for, is the physical card game, correct?
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned the IP, because I mean, as great as our card game is, which, forgive me, I'll brag for a moment, it's been called a revelation, a masterpiece, and the most addictive card game in years. Not my words, but I'll take it. So it is a pretty good card game. What's even better is our IP, as you mentioned. Antec created a remarkable universe that we are going to turn into movies and TVs and all kinds of things. And that is all thanks to him and his brilliant mind. So that's what you're seeing, represented in all these marketing materials, and that trailer is just little tiny snippets of the hundreds of pages of lore that backs up this universe. But yes, Kickstarter is going well, as you can see. If you want me to be completely honest about how this thing has gone, I'll give you some behind the scenes info. So we worked with an agency called Launch Boom, who they give you a playbook on how to have a successful Kickstarter. And part of that playbook is set your goal very low so that on day 1 you hit the goal, and you can use that in your marketing materials. Hey, look at us, we funded in 30 minutes, that big green thing on the bottom there. This game must be amazing, come check it out. Also, it bumps you up in the algorithm on Kickstarter. People talk about the game, it boosts you up some more, you get some organic growth beyond that. Great, cool, that's all good. Problem is, when the real goal is many tens of thousands above what that is, it's a gamble, right? So I'm not saying we're screwed. We're not. We're gonna be fine. We're just gonna need to make a new plan going forward. Obviously, our Kickstarter was funded. We were successful. The people who backed us are going to get their games. That is all well and good. It's great. I am going to go find some other money elsewhere, because I'm going to need to continue to develop this game further. But I'm not concerned about it. People seem to be interested. So I'm not really worried. We're going to be fine. There's still 29 hours, 28. Oh God, it just ticked down for me.
live timer.
Now it's time for me to have a panic attack. No. So, time to grow. We did 41,000 on day 1, and then it just almost entirely plateaued at that point. I mean, slowly we crept up. In fact, the 54 is actually a good thing, because we were stuck at 51 for 3 full weeks. Yeah, it didn't move an inch, and it just went up 3K in the last 24 hours. I'm hoping the last day looks out like the first day instead of day 2 through whatever, but we'll find out. It'll be okay either way. But if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see some of our offerings. Like, what we're actually selling is 3 tiered box sets. So the base set of Havoc has 200 unique cards. We have 3 tiers, as I noted. So the first one is the starter set. The starter set includes 125 total cards, which obviously is not every single card in the game, but it still allows for you to build multiple decks and play 1 versus 1. You got a lot of permutations in terms of deck construction options just from the starter set. After that, we have the core set, which has just about 200 cards in it. That one does not include every single card in the collection, but it's virtually every card. It only leaves out our legend cards, which are special cards that represent the actual characters of our universe. And then the largest box set is our Nyx Walker set, which has 2 copies of every card. It also has all of the legends, all the mechs, and all the pilots. So that box actually has 400 cards in it. It facilitates 2 versus 2 play. Now,
really?
Yes, it does. Now, the interesting thing is we actually hit 4 of our stretch goals. And so because of that, that has unlocked 27, I think, free cards from our first expansion for everyone. So when I said people get 125 cards in the starter set, that's actually not true. They'll get 125 plus the 27 free cards from the stretch goals. And we may very well hit another stretch goal or 2 before this thing is over. So at minimum, people are getting over 150 cards if they buy the smallest box set. So yeah, I mean, 2 versus 2 in the Nyx Walker set, the large box set. It comes with a 2v2 board extension, which is not actually, it doesn't extend the field of play itself because you still use the 6x6 grid, but it changes the pilot zone for, to facilitate 2 players back there. It's a fun format, but it's crazy. It's Havoc.
Okay. So this Nyx Walker set is the one that's 2v2, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
And how is that different from this Nyx Walker set? Is this just like
it's not at all. So the Kickstarter special one is just a discounted, for the last 24 hours, or I guess last 48 hours, we've got a 10% discount on all of the box sets. So, people who go in there now can get it for a little bit cheaper than people who got it in the middle, which is no one, as we've already covered, but that's okay. The people who came early got the first backer discount, which was a lot bigger than this particular discount. It was a 30% discount. So,
oh wow, that's significant.
Yeah. So despite that huge discount on day one, we still managed to raise 41, which was cool. It was really fun to watch on day one. The next 20 days. It became less fun, but you know what? It's good. It's our first Kickstarter. It's still a success, I think. So I am pleased with it. You can tell that I'm being honest.
So I know that there are publishers for digital video games. Are there publishers for trading card games?
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't really. So the reason we were hoping to raise a little bit more is because we wanted to just roll straight into traditional retail with these things. So we wanted, the seed money from this to, of course, get these initial box sets to the backers, but then to roll that into, printing so many copies up front that we can then use in the retail capacity. Now, we didn't necessarily hit that number. So we might have to look for a publisher. We were hoping to raise enough where we could do it as an indie publisher or a publisher on our own. We might, if we raise money, in another capacity, we may end up doing that anyways. Our focus primarily anyways is the digital game. I mean, we want to do this in parallel tracks where we continue to develop and sell the physical game. We've already got multiple expansions developed, so we intend to continue releasing those in perpetuity, really. But we wanted to go in parallel to the digital game, which we still need to develop, of course. So that's going to take a number of months, perhaps as much as a year. I mean, one studio that we have sort of a tentative agreement with, they claim they can do it in 7 months. That feels a little, ambitious. I don't know. We'll see. So we're at least 7 months away from a digital version of the game. And I mean like a true digital version, like what we did on Tabletopia. That's all well and good. That allows people to play, from anywhere in the world, of course. So it's great for that purpose. But the digital game will function nothing like that. I mean, think Gwent, Hearthstone, Magic. That's what we're trying to create. And in fact, the studio that we picked, they did do a demo for us, and a tiny little playable demo with some really incredible graphics that we were blown away by. They have some Pixar alum there, despite being a tiny little studio in Portugal. So they're good, and they can definitely do it. I just don't know if they can do it in 7 months, but we'll find out.
Yeah. We had a slightly unrelated question, actually completely unrelated question, still related to the topic, but not to the Kickstarter. Rick wants to know, says, ejecting the pilot is a good move if you have tentacles. I think that's what it's called.
Yes.
You have to help me understand.
Yeah, okay, so there is an option while you're playing, when you have your mech out in the field of play, to eject your pilot and use them as an additional combatant. Now, the reason the pilots have 0 movement is because the rule around ejecting is that you have to eject them forward into the row in front. So it's a risky move because it's a very aggressive move. You can have an additional combatant, yes, but they don't have the sufficient movement to autonomously move back into their mech, and their mech is dormant without them in it. So when you eject your pilot, you better do it for the kill shot because you're going to leave him out there exposed. And yes, if your opponent has a card called Tentacles, you can then damage that pilot and pull him towards you and really beat up on him before he can ever get back to his mech. So always beware when ejecting your pilot, Rick.
So can the pilot, it can get back into the mech?
It can, but you have to find some other means to do it than just movement. That's why we give the pilots 0 movement and why we force them to eject forward, because we want it to be a high risk move. But there's a lot of cards, for example, that push or pull other cards around the board. In fact, technically speaking, Tentacles is one of them. You can do Tentacles on your pilot and damage your pilot, yes, but it allows you to pull it backwards and pull it back into your mech. So sort of a weird way to get off another shot, and trade a few hit points on your own pilot for it. But
so it's like effectively like rushing the goalie or sorry, pulling the goalie in hockey. It's been a while.
Yes, exactly. There you go.
Like but pulling the goalie so you could have more shots on goal for your opponent, but then you also leave your goal completely.
That is a great analogy that I've never heard, but yes, that's perfect. That is exactly what ejected pilot is. It is pulling the goalie.
Yeah. Awesome. I enjoyed playing the first version of it. My kids are learning about board games. We play card games. We're not trading card games. A lot of Uno, a lot of memory match. So I think that my oldest son would really appreciate this. I also think my youngest son, because he's a toddler, might eat some of these cards. So I have to figure
my
out,
toddler has done that too. Fortunately, I've got thousands of them around here, so she can eat a few. It's fine. How old are your kids?
7, soon to be 6, and 2.
Wow. Okay, 3 kids. I've got 2. I've called it there. I mean, more power to you, man. I don't have the strength. Daughters desperately, but I don't understand how people do it when they're outnumbered.
Yeah. From what is it? What do they say? You go from playing man-to-man defense to zone.
Zone, yes, right, exactly.
Use another sports metaphor.
Hey, it works.
It does. Well, I'm excited about this, man. Definitely want to have some more introductions for you. Ace is going to be great for you as you working towards this, and I'm sure he can learn from what you're doing as well. Some other folks we had talked about before. I see a lot of potential for this. When you say that it's the next paradigm or paradigm shift in trading card games, I want to leave on that note. That you kind of talk a little more about that. Explain that philosophy.
So I mean that in a couple capacities. First of all, the funny thing is we went with the TCG adage or add-on really as a kind of a wink and a nudge at the TCG community, because it's not actually a TCG. It's not a trading card game. It's a tactical card game. And we're following the LCG model, the living card game model. And the LCG model is that you sell box sets like we're doing with all of the cards contained within, so that you don't have to buy, booster packs upon booster packs in the hopes that you can construct a single deck and play a game. You can buy a box set. You've got them all there. Everyone is at the same level. They all got the same cards. It's just a matter of, who builds the better deck and who plays more strategically. So tactical card game in that regard, there's not a lot of trading card games or card battlers that do the living card game model. we were actually going to follow the TCG model, which is why we went with TCG initially. But we asked our community, and they all didn't want more booster packs because they've got enough of that with all the other card games. And we said, okay, we hear you. We'll go LCG. And they've been very happy with that. So we'll stick with that for the physical. And including further expansions. Every expansion we release, we'll release it in similar tiered sets where you can get, most of the cards or all of the cards in a single box. And then with the digital version of the game, that's where we'll follow the other card games where like Hearthstone and Magic, where there's a large free-to-play element to the game. You can come in, you get a starter deck, you can earn cards slowly as you play and level up and stuff like that, or you can buy booster packs to build your collection that way. So that's the same model that other digital card games use. But for the physical, we go tactical, we go LCG, and we call it paradigm shifting because of this board and this grid and this field of play. We are not the first to ever use a field of play or a board like this in a card game, but it is pretty uncommon. I have not yet found another card game, and it probably exists, please correct me if I'm wrong, where it is a sci-fi theme and it has this tactical grid. I've seen a couple other card games that are fantasy, like every other card game, that have a grid. They function a little bit differently. One of them, Summoner Wars, I actually hadn't heard of until I was done designing this game. And someone was like, oh, this is kind of like Summoner Wars. I was like, damn it. I was trying to make something new. But Summoner Wars is interesting because it's like, it kind of, it brings in sort of like a D&D element. So you have to like roll as you attack things. So there's an element of luck that I just personally, I don't like that in game design. So that's why I want you to be able to do what you want to do as long as you put yourself in the position to do it. So you don't have to roll to determine whether or not you hit the guy you're trying to shoot. So yeah, there's similar games, but ours is a bit different. Plus the mechs and the pilots, with that kind of tiered level of in-game avatar, or this duo that creates your in-game avatar, and the way those things can interact with one another and the field of play is interesting. It's actually inspired by Titanfall. So,
I was gonna suggest that there was maybe like an action adventure version of this that wasn't a trading card game, and the game reference I kept thinking of was Tribes, but then I was like, no, it has to have been done something similar to that recently, and Titanfall was. I was going to say Titanfall. You beat me to it.
Yeah, I mean, so the RPG we're making is actually going to be interchangeable with this game, but Titanfall was kind of an early inspiration. Titanfall, Warhammer, it's kind of a mix of different genres. So this is what we came up with.
Super cool. Super cool. Well, congratulations on the last 24 hours of your campaign. It's going to end, midnight? Your MST? You CST?
I'm Central Time. So yes, it'll be midnight. I think it's midnight Pacific time.
Okay. So that gives you an extra couple of hours.
Yes, that's right.
So 25 hours or so. Oh, actually, if I wanted to know exactly how many hours, because this has a live time tracker, I could just go all the way to the top of the page.
It's right at the top. It's somewhere up
it's
there.
Right
We're gonna get
here.
there.
28 hours.
28 hours to go, and yeah, we'll see what happens. We're feeling okay about it. Feeling good.
Awesome. What is one more thing we had discussed before, like the IP opportunity? I don't know if you want to talk about like the wider opportunity there, or if that's for another time. I think I see that I've only seen a handful of games truly do like 360, like transmedia. The one that comes to mind immediately is Minecraft, but I have only seen like maybe 5 that have done it well.
Yeah.
And I can't even think of the other 4 off the top of my head. So basically just Minecraft.
Yeah. I mean, it's ambitious, but I want us to be the next Blizzard or the next WotC or some combination of the two. This IP, Wizards of the Coast, for example, with their D&D, they finally started to, they got one movie now, finally, that was relatively decent. Took them a long time. They neither company, frankly, has done enough with their IP beyond their, gaming sphere. I mean, they're doing just fine. So, they're okay.
No rush. There's no need to rush.
Yeah. But like, I mean, we did not from the outset, we didn't intend to be a multimedia company, but truly because of this IP and how incredible it is and how brilliant Antek is in his writing. I mean, I'll try to be brief. So I'll just say that he conceptualized 8 original unique alien civilizations. For all of those, he created homeworlds. He wrote the histories and the prehistories and the evolutionary timeline of each of those species to explain how they came from, their very nascent phase to the civilization they became for 8 different civilizations. And that is all just backstory, because that's not even where the game takes place. It takes place on the central place called the Terminus, this dark place created by these ancient but advanced beings known as the Hermits, who left it, and in their wake they left an AI that split into multiple shards that all have different agendas, and they bring in all of these different races, and that's where things start to hit the fan. So there's hundreds and hundreds of pages of writing to create this universe, so it would be foolish of us not to do something more with it beyond just the game. Like there's not that many card games when you create the first card game that they go deeper than just the pictures on the card, at least not in the first iteration of a game, right? But that's not the case for us. We were lore first, and then we constructed the game. So it's an incredible universe, and people are going to start to see it. And interestingly enough, in our Discord, we are just deploying a bot here soon that's going to do like essentially a choose your own adventure, so you can experience the world of the Terminus through one of the civilizations, and you sort of pick how you go through and you learn the lore interactively. So yeah, there's a lot of legs for the IP, that's for sure.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing the anime version of it, because I think it
Yes.
could be somewhere between like Naruto and Gundam.
100%. Yep. I mean, I look forward to that too. It will not be long.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks so much for your time. You mentioned you've got 2 little kids that hopefully are still in their sleeping phase, but I don't want to keep you away from them any longer than I have. I appreciate it. Best of luck in the next 28 hours. It won't click over to 27 while we're on this live stream, but 27-ish hours. Please keep me posted. I'll be sharing your updates this evening, tomorrow, as much as I can do to support, and let me know if there's anything else I can do to be helpful.
Thank you. Well, Marcus, man, it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last 24 hours. This whirlwind romance of ours. No, I mean it's been great to get to know you. I'm so grateful that you've been just kind of helping me out of the kindness of your own heart. I really appreciate it. Thank you for helping us spread the word. I will keep you posted, as you say, and we'll see where things go from here. But you and I will be in touch quite a bit, I think, in coming days and weeks. So thanks again. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, everybody, parting words, you can look this up on Kickstarter, HAVOC Gen Zero tactical card game. I will see you again next week, next Thursday. We're back on our regular schedule, for another episode 10 of the Level Up Your Wealth podcast. Until then, have a safe and fun weekend. For those of you who live in Florida like I do, and potentially Georgia, there's a hurricane that's going to be here the next 24 to 48 hours. So be safe, please. See you soon. Peace.
Take care.